Hello guys, just Goron here and welcome back to building Beekse Bergen. And as you can see by the title, we are doing another zoo tour. Now, you might be thinking, why is that? We already did one last episode and we're only going to do it every now and again. Well, funny story. I recorded several episodes, two of which were time lapses, but also about 2 or 3 episodes worth of just real-time commentary. But the time lapses were kind of boring. If you want to know, I spent one entire time lapse of just figuring out how this fencing worked, and then doing some terraforming. Not quite interesting. And one episode which could have been more interesting, but I just couldn't make it interesting, basically, of building this thing. So I decided to scrap them, but then there were the videos of real-time commentary, which were actually quite interesting, and I was really happy with them, because I was kind of at a point where I wasn't really happy with most of the time-lapse stuff I was doing anymore, and I wanted to kind of make the quality of the videos better. This project started off, or the video series started off as me just wanting to capture the progress and the process of this park and sharing that with people. And it soon turned into just really quickly record, do voiceover, and be done with it. But I want to put more effort into it. And yeah, that started with me recording more real-time stuff and kind of showing more things. But then, because I was trying to fix some computer problems or just experimenting with things, my computer's settings got reset and the default microphone got put back. And for some reason, my computer always defaults to my USB camera as the default microphone, which has just the worst quality. It's way too far away from my mouth, so it sucks. So it was incomprehensible. So I had to scrap all of those episodes as well. On top of that, I already did a whole lot of stuff off camera after recording that first fill time lapse of doing this large area. I started working out many different areas of the zoo, kind of placing down buildings and working out how all of this stuff works just off camera. I had another visit to the zoo in which I again checked out how all of this worked, because I still couldn't figure it out, and now I actually have that down quite well, which was actually going to be this episode, just showing off that progress. But yeah, all of that footage was just ruined. So, and I considered doing a voiceover over just my recording, but it just I couldn't get it to feel right. So scrapped all of it. We're just gonna do another zoo tour, looking around at all the stuff we did and talking about some things. So I guess the first main thing I should mention before we have a look around is that in the most recent patch, which by the time this video goes live, it's gonna be weeks ago, but this week we had an update that basically fixed the biggest issue I had in the beginning of making the zoo, when we were making the hyena habitat, which was animal welfare being actually the issue mainly came up with the gorillas, right? So we had the gorillas, they were pretty happy chappies, but occasionally they would get stressed and be unhappy, and protesters would come, even though I had animal welfare turned off. So animals were always happy, but still protesters would show up. They recently fixed that, so no longer protesters will no longer show up if you turn off welfare. So yeah, I turned it back off because we had it turned on because protesters would show up anyway. So what was the point? And I found it a nice extra challenge. But it has caused me to have to do things like this. Habitat is way smaller in real life, especially this building on the back is supposed to be much smaller. So now that welfare is turned off, I can shrink it down again. I'm not gonna touch this. That's just gonna stay the way it is, because it's, oof, no, I'm never gonna touch that again, for obvious reasons. But yeah, it's nice that I can make this look more like it should. By just, I'm gonna cut it in half probably, and that should be enough. So yeah, the main concerns are now just the usability and the realism, and just having everything in the right position, and so animal welfare is kind of off the table. And it would still be fun to see if at the end of this series we turn it back on and see a meltdown occur, but yeah. Now, before we jump into the first person camera, let's take a bit of a bird's eye view and look at the rest of the park, which is now pretty much entirely laid out, except for like this part, which is car safari. Still needs to kind of be hooked up in the part where we have to compromise, sadly. But up until that point, we had pretty much none of this. No, it's all new. So I finished this walkway area, and that kind of leads down into here, where it connects back up to stuff we'll look at in a bit. But now it kind of bends around here, going to the Africa village, as well as over here, which is the elephant habitat. All of this is, by the way, there's like one section over here. This is the elephant stall, and then there's this also for the elephants. Then over here is the giraffe stalls, and this is kind of the second or third safari area, depending on how you look at it. I suppose this over here is going to be the second one, if this is the first. And then this is kind of number 3. And yeah, you can walk around it like this by foot. Again, connecting up to the Africa village, and then going around here, you join back up at the monkey primate house, at which you can go around this way, which you go past the lions, okapis, red pandas, sloth bears. Over here is a big area for Sitatungas, which I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly at all. And they're not in the game, but there's actually an animal, Nyala, which are closely related to Sitatungas. They're like from the same sort of family. And they actually look almost identical, especially in the fact that the males and the females, like the males have the horns and the females don't, they have similar stripes, so it's going to be a great replacement for them. Coming up here, there's some islands for red ruffed lemurs and white ruffed lemurs. I'm not sure if they're called white ruffed lemurs. That's just making a guess based on their Dutch name. But and over here is Congo Square, which is going to have a big restaurant, gift shop, and big square with a playground and things like that. And then over here is going to be a hippo habitat with the reptile house, and another aviary. Over here is going to be the dock and some stuff, sea lions, bird of prey show, ringtail lemurs. And over here we have 3 separate habitats, all for tigers. Over here, I forget their name, but they're like an African cow, I think, which I'm not sure what we're going to put in there as a replacement yet, but we'll find out, because they just look like cows. I don't know what's so special about them, but oh, they're from a different continent. And yeah, that joins you back up over here. So that is pretty much the planned out area. I've just got stuff put in the right spot, and now it's just a case of filling it in, but that's gonna take forever. But for the next few episodes, I've kind of taken it upon myself to finish stuff, because there's a bunch of stuff that is like so close to being finished, just needs a bit more work, and I've actually been doing that off camera as well. But yeah, let's go in first person and check out the zoo. Alright, so back at the front of the zoo, you can see it's just an increasing amount of junk stored outside here, but what you might also be able to see is this. And I think we had this? No, wait, that was in one of the scrapped episodes that I showed. The car track, which I had for a long time, kind of hidden underneath the ground. And I've been working on setting that up and kind of testing it through our Safari habitat, which is also built in a scrapped episode. So we'll see all of that come together in a bit. But yeah, people can get onto a safari ride over here, and we'll see them do that now. And they'll start to drive around, and they'll actually first have to leave the parking lot, and I've actually made them drive on like the right hand side of the road, as you do in the Netherlands and in most places on the world. But they don't stop for pedestrians, but they do actually stop for staff members walking on the path, so that's funny, if you ask me. But yeah, we'll probably see them around, so let's head inside. So, oh yeah, new things. I added some signs, using the in-game signs, actually kind of placing them kind of right inside of these. And if you put a sign right behind anything, a wall, or in this case a piece of cloth, it actually kind of shows it shows the text anyway on top of whatever it's behind. So yeah, that's how I did this, and it looks pretty good. The only fun thing about it is that if it's nighttime, the signs will light up, even though these are clearly not illuminated. Yeah, that is a bit odd, but you know, whoa, that's very bright. It looks cool, if you ask me, so that's fine. So, minor changes to this place as well. Got some glass around. Not sure if I'm completely happy with it yet, but it's getting somewhere. And minor changes over here as well. Just, oh yeah, actually more than just minor changes, because this is all of camera stuff. Changed this roof to be more pointy. Changed this roof to be also more pointy and made out of wood. Yeah, just suddenly noticed in a reference image like, oh, that is not a thatch roof. So fixed that up. Also got a sign. It says a whole year on Safari. It's advertising the subscriptions, like the one I got. But yeah, going through the entrance and to the right, kind of cleaned up this area. There's some lights in the ceiling. I'm keeping this sign over here, even though it's in the wrong spot and also the wrong size, because on my reference image, which was like this, it looked exactly right. But then I had an image like this, and I noticed, oh, the sign is actually over there, and it's way smaller. But I can't make this sign any smaller, so I'm just gonna keep it, because I'm really happy with the way it looks. So, yeah. Now over here, we got the gift shop, which actually has received a lot of work. This room isn't entirely done. It needs some more detailing around this sort of area. I think this shelf needs some actual shelves, but I only had reference images of this side of the store. So that's why this is all I built. But as you can see, it is some of the most detailed stuff I have built so far. There's t-shirts, pants, those are meant to be stuffed animals, just gift shop stuff all over the place. Some shelves are still empty and need work, but overall I'm so happy with how it has turned out. Like it's just fantastic. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's just super detailed, and I couldn't be happier with the way it turned out. So, gonna try to find more stuff to put on the shelves, and maybe hope that future DLCs bring us some more small items, but for now, I'm pretty happy with this. I'm just gonna leave it. Of course, next time I'm there, it's gonna be in like a week or two. I'm gonna take some more pictures of this place probably, as well as which I suppose we can head there now, or maybe have a look around here first. But next time I'm there, I am probably going to be taking the car safari, because I'm going to be going with my sister and her boyfriend, which are also going to be taking a year subscription. We gave it to them for their birthdays. But yeah, that's going to be fun. I'm really looking forward to that. But over here, you might be able to tell, and I think I showed it in the previous zoo tour as well, that I fixed the roof. But you might also notice that right now it's a different color than it was, because I repainted the entire thing, which was a pain in the ass, because the roof is like a whole, it's connected to everything, so I basically had to go through and select each of those parts separately and recolor them. Now I somehow managed to get up here, but I can't get back down, so that is a problem. Now, something I also noticed last time I was at the zoo, that is that the back wall of this place only comes to the center of the building. Also noticed that we made the viewing area way too big. So yeah, I guess you could almost say that I redid the entire building. Because I moved this wall, I moved the interiors, I made all of this stuff. And there's like this back area for all the monkeys. If you go through here, same goes for the gorillas, goes up to the middle, and then you've got like a more private area over here. Keeper hut still in the same place, but something I'll discuss in a little bit. Because the safari habitat is a thing, I had to remove the roads leading up to this place. So I have a bunch of staff walking around in here, but this is all they know. They cannot leave the monkey primate house island that I created for them. So I did give them a little staff room, so they can be happy around here. But yeah, that's just their life right now. Now, moving along the road over here, I did a little bit of work on this place, added some of those rocks that should be there. Not done, just all work in progress. Same goes for this stuff. And now we get to over here, where I did some work on the lion exhibit. Now I think this fence needs to be lowered down a little. It's not entirely accurate, but I have this little viewing area with all this wood stuff and some benches. These trash bins, which are a different color than the ones that I have at the entrance. I thought, oh, I only have to make one trash bin and I can just copy them all over the park, but I have been proven wrong quite quickly. These ones are a different color. There's other things that are different in all sorts of other ways, which we'll get to that. But yeah, oh yeah, something really cool that I'll show you is this pathing over here. Now I'll quickly exit the Tegit cam, because this might not look very significant at first, but normally if you would try to hook up the paths that way, that they are, it will look, as the game is very kindly showing right now, you'll get things like this. So the way I worked around this is by not hooking it up to the path like that, but instead giving the path a 5 meter wide section kind of around the place you want to join it up, and then you get a semi-straight connection, but with the paths, yeah, kind of the way you would want them to be. So I hope that's clear. There's a little mini tutorial for y'all. Now let's find a new staff member so we can get back to first person. Now some other things regarding the lions is that I actually haven't worked on that yet, but I'm going to be putting a little fancy thing, I'm not sure what it's called, like a safety guard around here, so that if you drop something or if you fall off, you fall into the safety guard and not into the lion habitat. But what I should show is this little place. I didn't mention that in a video because it was a scrap one, but for a while I've been trying to make this back area accessible to the lions, while keeping the railing, as well as having both of them be part of the same habitat. This is basically a huge usability win, if you ask me, because I finally, after a lot of fidgeting around and trying different methods, found a way to do it. And it all has something to do with a habitat we'll get to later, but basically the way I am connecting this part to this habitat. So what's normally the problem is that if you have a area over here and you want to keep this fence in between, it's going to say that either this is a habitat or that one. There's no way to join them up. So what I actually did is that this entire wall, all the way going around there, is not the habitat perimeter. What is, oh god, the habitat perimeter actually goes into a null barrier and goes around here, and yeah, joins back up later. So yeah, that makes it so that this entire thing is part of one habitat, and the way that the lions are actually able to get through here is because of this is a climbable structure, and when they're walking on climbable structure, they don't really give a damn about walls or fences or anything. While this can be something incredibly frustrating, it actually works in our favor here because we have these tiny little gates that are currently closed because but they actually walk through them to get to this back area if they want some shelter. Now the keeper, who cannot go through here, can go around here, which for some reason the lions cannot. I guess it's just too slim for them. But the keepers can go through here. And now this is a trick that I found out a while ago that is not the prettiest, but I'm sure I can clean up this area a little bit to make it all work. So the thing you do is you have some terrain going up around, all the way around there. Then you prop up the fence. Then normally in theory you should be able to remove all the terrain and then you keep the hole in the fence. Problem is when you reload the game automatically connects it back to the ground. So how do we circumvent that? Well, we just have a tiny slither of floating terrain here, which is keeping the fence up. So this is preventing the fence from automatically reconnecting back to the ground, which works. And yeah, it's just kind of an exploit. I mean, I say it works. I did spend like 2 or 3 hours trying to get this to work. So yeah, I do not recommend it. I also had like 2 game crashes as well as some really funky behavior. Now, with the lions done, we get to a completely new area. Well, I mean, the area's always been there, but it's finally filled in and kind of terraformed to suit what it looks like in real life. All that's really left to be done is most of the foliage. But we've got the main kind of safari area of the zoo, which is the first one you come through when you walk over these bridges. And what to me is always very iconic is like zebras and stuff hanging out over here by the road, preventing cars from driving through. They've got a feeding station over here, which kind of, I guess, attracts all the animals around this general area. What I've done to kind of make sure the animals actually get enough food is I have placed feeder inside a feeder inside a feeder inside a feeder. There's like 5 or 6 feeders in that one spot, which isn't something that you can actually do. Like if I try to do it right now, okay, it is gonna let me. Basically, normally it should say that it is obstructed, but for some reason, every time you reload the game, you can place one feeder inside another one, like once, and after that it will stop allowing you to do it again. So pretty much every time I reloaded the game, I just placed in another feeder until I kind of stopped having issues. So yeah, it seems to work, and the animals are fine with it. Now you can see that the entrance to the habitat is on this side. At first it was actually way back there, where you can actually see a little stable sort of area. You can also see the monorail stopped. But yeah, it was originally way over there. but the keepers had to walk all the way here to get to these feeders. So I decided, entrance should be over there. But that brings in a problem, and actually a fun story of the zoo melting down, and I had like 200 something notifications of like animals being in trouble. Because, as you may remember, we had these little staff paths, or we had these paths, and they were only accessible by staff, because we have little tricks to make staff paths out of regular paths. Problem was that once I put these animals into this habitat, the staff didn't really like walking on the staff paths anymore, and it kind of frustrates me, because okay, sure, a shop clerk or this guy caretaker, I guess they would get pretty scared of suddenly walking to a wildebeest. But the zookeepers walk through the habitat all the time. The mechanics enter the habitats to work on the things. The freaking the vets, they also enter the habitats to pick up animals. So what was going on now was that would be a zookeeper who was getting ready to feed the lions by walking into the habitat, and he would be like, oh my freaking god, a zebra, I have to get out of here, my life's in danger. That was frustrating. But yeah, basically couldn't have staff paths going straight through exhibits of animals that aren't intended for that. What just happened over there? So yeah, I had to get rid of that, which is why Monkey Island became Monkey Island. Over there, this kind of keeper area is also shut off from the rest of the park, and the lions are now connected up over there. And now something pretty cool you can see over here as well are these stock guards that I made that are actually available on the workshop if you want them. But these allow me to have an open fence, and yeah, animals are not able to get across these. You think so, but and actually if you put the railings, if you put these poles slightly closer together, they actually can walk across it, which in real life they wouldn't, because in real life these are actually a lot slimmer. But yeah, with the way I have it set up right now, as long as there's nothing above this little black art piece, everything's fine. And I've made it so that cars, they slightly they slightly dip down into the ground to be able to go underneath that threshold, but it doesn't look that bad. And yeah, they go around and are on safari, and people love it, actually. So yeah, that kind of concludes the safari bit. It's by far the biggest habitat that is in the zoo at this point, and it's definitely going to remain that way. As you can see, it is all around you, and the area is actually like, it's 35,000 square meters, so yeah, should be big enough for a whole bunch of animals. Too bad that there's a limit on how many zebra you can have. I mean, we can have quite a bit more wildebeest, because they actually go up quite a bit, but yeah, the rest is pretty much at their limit already. Now, going down this path, you can see I added these fences all the way around. And one really nice detail I noticed in one of the images was that one of the ropes was sideways, and it was like, what's going on over there? But it was actually around a little sign, so I incorporated that. I found it pretty funny. But yeah, we come down here, we get to the first aviary, which is still a work in progress, but I put in some pronghorn antelope to replace the dik-diks that are normally in this habitat. Now, dik-diks are way smaller than these, but yeah, we don't have many birds, and since this aviary contained something other than birds, I thought, let's put something in there to imitate that. So we got this female pronghorn antelope. Now, going further along the path of things that we've done in the past, over here we have the hyena habitat, which has been slightly revised, because I found out that it was actually kind of it sloped down too much, and it wouldn't really slope up until after the habitat. So over there you can see a big hill. The things weren't really in the right spot, and luckily I did find out that there's kind of a second little fenced off area over here, which is where the hyenas go to when they're being fed. They are, I mean, okay, so nobody actually told me this, but I'm assuming that's how it works. So I think that they kind of lure the hyenas into this small area, so that they can then put food in the main habitat and then release them and have them eat it and stuff like that. Now along this road, a lot of stuff has actually changed. I've done so much looking around and not even making pictures anymore, because the pictures simply weren't helping figuring out how this area fit together. On Google Maps, all you could see was trees. In real life, or on the pictures, it's kind of the same. All you see is trees and mesh of the fences, and it's just a mess of pixels. So I just went there in real life, I drew out how I think everything fit together, and that's what we built. So we got a little viewing area of this main kind of cheetah habitat, which currently houses the 2 babies, and then there's this little fence, hole in the fence, which connects it up to this larger area. Here's a little hut where there's some shelter for them. Then behind here is a second habitat. I'm pretty sure this one is the one I'm least certain about, but I'm pretty sure there's a second habitat there, because otherwise the first one would be way too kind of wide. Now over here is another one, which is behind the wild dogs area. Oh wait, we're actually inside the wild dogs area. Over here, which is kind of alongside the car safari, there's another cheetah area, which I could see from the car safari while we were at the wild dogs, which are, by the way, over here. The cars drive along here, and kind of you have a viewing into this wild dogs area, which is work in progress. And the cars actually go over this stock god into the cheetah habitat, which houses 4 in real life female cheetahs, but in the game you can't really put that many females together, but males are fine, so I got males in here. But the great thing, which actually surprised me a lot, is that the stock god also prevent cheetahs from walking across them. So yeah, highly effective. I mean, currently only tested on 4 separate species, but the fact that cheetahs are stopped by it is really promising. It makes me really happy. But yeah, there isn't really much else to see here. It's just a lot of work in progress regarding cheetahs and stuff like that. Now over here, this is all work in progress, just laid out. Where's the Africa village going to be? Where's the playground going to be? Little stuff area, rhino stall. Yeah, not much to see here. So going up here, you got another view into the cheetah habitat, which is going to be slightly more obscured later on by all of the foliage that's going to be there. But yeah, that's just a work in progress. Over here, yeah, more work in progress. It's going to be like the most overused word this episode, but this is going to be kind of the rhino fields. They're along here with some springbok as well as some other savanna animals, but I'm pretty happy with how this stuff ended up. I want to smoothen it out a bit more, because now it's pretty clear that I raised up the terrain to put that water in, but yeah, just very slight terrain modifications, and there's some water going along here, which is keeping the animals from getting up here. There's going to be a fence, of course. Some more exciting stuff, but before that, here is something that I'm not too sure about yet. I'm actually looking at it like this. It's not that bad. I guess I just spent too much time looking at it while building it, because as I mentioned earlier, I thought I'd make one recycling bin and be done with it, but then I got to this point and I looked at the reference for it and was like, is that a different recycling bin? And sure enough it was, and it was a pretty complex shape, and I think I kind of got the general gist of it. Now I have to kind of position it right, but yeah, I'm actually pretty happy with how it looks. I except for the top. The top is really messy, but it's just with the way that the kind of bending of this all goes, it's really difficult to get that top to look any better. So I might just keep it this way, and who knows, maybe I'll find a way to improve it, or just someday we might actually get a similar looking recycling bin. But let's get to something a bit more exciting, which is the flamingo habitat, which is finally 99% complete. Like a bit more foliage around it, but the inside was already pretty much complete, and now I have completed this little viewing area with this there's these rolling sliding doors that you can open, and there's some gutters. It's nice and wooden. The viewing platform inside actually has a little railing, so you can look over that. Okay, well, or you can be a little kid and just be inside of it. Oh yeah, there's these little feeding platforms which aren't functional, but that's just how they are in real life. So I'm pretty happy I was able to recreate those. And if we go back down now, that's kind of the thing I'm least happy with. I couldn't put a different bench in here, so I'm gonna cover this up with some wooden planks and stuff still. But the default bench I've been using just didn't want to place down there. It said the terrain was too uneven, which is ridiculous if you ask me, but why am I on top? Help. The thing I'm kind of least happy with, which you can kind of see from over here, I'm kind of scared to go inside again. But there's these blue things, and those are kind of these little plastic flaps that you go through, which prevent animals from going through. I couldn't find a piece that worked, because you kind of want it to be a matte but transparent thing. You guys okay there? Clearly not. But yeah, I couldn't find something, and I wanted to leave it out, but the way that this door is done, it's kind of, this entire wall is just wood, and this door kind of prevents you from seeing that. So I wanted to prevent you from seeing it from the other side as well, which is why I added the plastic flaps. And that leads us to the second primate house, which hasn't changed much. Last night I kind of finished up some detailing, finishing the aviary. I actually managed to make this a functional habitat and put a peafowl in, but it wasn't even able to calculate its space requirement because it had zero traversable area. Basically, the habitat was so small that the game just didn't know what to do with it. So I decided against making it a habitat and just put in nothing but the foliage, and it needs a bit more detailing. Like, it has a bunch of these twigs all around. But yeah, that's that. I made this thing a bit smaller to get to make the door a bit smaller, to get this detail in, which I'm pretty happy with. And yeah, this primate house probably needs a bit of reworking as well. I'll check it out in my reference photos, or maybe I have to look at it on my next visit. But I feel like it's probably similar to the first primate house, where the wall probably goes to the middle and then has some stuff in the back. So probably gonna change that, but we'll see. So coming around what is going to be the elephant habitat, we meet back up with the path which leads to the aviary over there. The path itself is pretty neat. There's going to be a bunch more foliage around because this area is pretty foresty. Over here we got a nice bench which overlooks the safari area. Though the view, I suppose the view is fine. Oh no, it's just not great. But look at all the different animals. So let's deselect that. But you got this little bridge area, this elevated walkway which still needs the ropes. Those are a lot of work to put in, so I'm kind of holding off on that. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with how these things worked out. These little benchy areas where you can have a nice look at all the animals which are on the other side, because that's where the food is. But we've got the bridges and more benches. Oh, you can actually see a camp spot up pretty close. Over here is one of the adventuring routes, which I still have to put in. Over here the fence kind of comes up because you're pretty level with the field. And then there's this. And oh yeah, that's something I haven't talked about yet. Another compromise I had to make, because pretty much all the safari animals could swim. So everything was escaping constantly. So I've had to put in this this chain link fence, and I've kind of hidden away the posts. Chain link is actually more hidden than glass is for some reason. So yeah, I've got a chain link fence going around the pond, as well as all the way back here, which is also like kind of a little shoreline where normally there would be nothing, but yeah, for some reason, but yeah, all the animals could swim, so I had to stop them from getting into the water. And it's really a shame because this area is normally kind of barren and not really foliage heavy, but to hide the fact that there's a fence here, I've put in a bunch of foliage which isn't supposed to be there. But yeah, it's kind of making a choice between different things. But over here is a very big oak tree and that needs some cleaning up. There's benches around it, but this of course doesn't look good yet. I'm gonna customize this bench so that it's good looking. And then we get to the final few things. This over here is the Persian leopard habitat. Now you might be saying, oh, but that is no, obviously a Persian leopard. So forget all you know, and that's all you see. But yeah, he's got a very nice closed off gate which prevents him from climbing out. Of course it doesn't, this is what prevents him in the game, but yeah, this was a lot of work. And didn't really make for an interesting time lapse because it was just very repetitive and dull to look at. And yeah, I had to redo a bunch of this stuff because it was just, I kept making mistakes. But yeah, this is what I mentioned earlier with the lions, where I figured out how to connect both these things into the same habitat using a hole basically, and I'm still going to cover up this hole a bit better, but yeah, that's just what I learned. And yeah, he's got a very nice densely foliage. I really like the way that the vines are climbing up against the ceiling like this, and yeah, overall I'm really happy with how this habitat looks. So that brings us back to the entrance plaza, where we have what's going to be kind of a wildlife kind of charity building with a little museum, as well as this little thing, which is really adorable and pretty accurate to the real deal as well. But what's over here is a little statue of an elephant where you can toss in a coin, and I never tossed in a coin, but it's like, oh, you can make the elephant poop or something, and it actually donates money to the Wildlife Foundation, which helps all of the species in the zoo. So this is the one and only donation bin in the entire park, which is raking in all the money for all sorts of animals, which is interesting. So yeah, and then we get to this nice little square where there's this I'm not sure what to call it. It's not really a gazebo, but it's a nice shelter for people to sit down under and enjoy their slushies and fries. These are some stands that are open during busy days, and I'm not sure how I'm gonna make them look good yet, because right now they look it's terrible. But it's just, these things are so bulky, and I just want them to work normally. But yeah, I'll figure it out. Yeah, I got the second bathroom in. Not that it's really necessary, but accuracy. And that brings us round. So we toured around the zoo. I think we actually got to everything that I've done. So that kind of leaves us with an important alert. I don't care. And yeah, that kind of leaves us for today's zoo tour. It was actually, I think, longer than last time, because there was much more to show, because it's all stuff that you haven't seen before. I've pretty much covered everything I wanted to talk about today, all but for one thing, and that is that sometime this week I'm going to be getting new computer parts, and a friend of mine is going to help me install them. And hopefully these parts are going to be fixing the stuttering and freezing issues that I've been having, and just overall beefing up my computer. I'm going to be upgrading to DDR4 RAM, which I currently have DDR3 RAM. I'm going to be getting 32 gigabytes as opposed to the 16 that I currently have. I am going to be getting a new processor, which is compatible with the DDR4 RAM, as well as a new motherboard and new cooling. And for those interested, the processor that I'm getting is actually an AMD Ryzen 7 3700X, which should do me just fine. I really hope I'm gonna be able to tell the difference and finally be rid of these freezes, because they're annoying, especially in these real-time segments. I try to stop talking whenever a freeze happens so that I can cut it out for your viewing pleasure, but it's just annoying. So yeah, hopefully next episode that will be fixed. So off camera I'm going to be working on some detailing, finishing off stuff that's nearly finished, probably most notably the primate houses, flamingos and lions, as well as the Persian leopard. And then in the next episode, who knows what we'll be doing. We'll see. There's so much. I'll see you then. Goodbye.